You see this? Take a good look at it and tell me what you see. If somehow you hadn't already realized, this is George Russell in Red Bull overalls. Now, you might be wondering, why are you showing me this picture? Well, one reason is for you guys to see that not every article or story driven by the media holds truth or credibility. But also, it's a reminder of how eventful George Russell's 2020 season was, despite him driving the slowest car on the grid. From outdriving his car on a Saturday, to crashing under the safety car in Imola, to almost winning a race in Sakhir, a lot happened in just his second season in F1. For many, his performance in Sakhir proved that he will be a world champion in the future, including myself. In fact, straight after that weekend, I went as far as to say that he is the best driver among the current crop of young guns. But looking back, I can't help but feel that was said with a lot of recency bias and at a time when the hype was still through the roof. While he is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best talents on the grid, the man still hasn't really been put through deep waters just yet. And with the writing seemingly on the wall for Valtteri Bottas, he will surely be next in line for the Mercedes drive after 2021. So let's take a dive into his rollercoaster of a season in 2020 and what it means for his future. Now, just before we get into the video, I wanted to welcome all the new subscribers from my last video covering McLaren and thank you all for the amazing support. We are well on our way to hitting 20k subscribers, so if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon to keep up to date with the latest uploads. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, George Russell and his teammate Nicholas Latifi are two drivers who by Formula 1 standards are the equivalent of human skyscrapers. One of them is a Formula 2 champion and the other is, well, a pay driver. If we look at the head-to-head comparisons between the two, we can see that Russell comfortably got the better of Latifi in qualifying, with the final score coming in at 16-0 and an average gap of over half a second. It was a similar story in the races as well, with Russell also leading 8-2 in that category. But interestingly, Latifi had more P11 finishes than the Brits, with 3 compared to Russell's 1 in Mugello. Finally, we can take a look at the number of laps both drivers were in the top 10. Russell drove 59 laps in the top 10, whereas Latifi had 27. Now, it's pretty clear to see that George showed his teammate dust on a Saturday. An average deficit of over half a second over a single lap feels like an eternity in Formula 1. This shouldn't come as a surprise, however, given he was going up against a rookie and, to put it nicely, not the greatest of drivers.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
However, on a Sunday, Latifi wasn't too shabby at all. In fact, the numbers are quite interesting. Here is a comparison between Russell and Latifi's mean race pace across 8 races. Note that races where one of the drivers retired have not been included in this comparison. As you can see, Russell was the faster driver on average race pace last year compared to Latifi, but it wasn't by much. On the one occasion that Latifi was faster, the difference was 0.06 of a second at the Russian Grand Prix. It's also important to note that the biggest gap between the two all season in Portimao was amplified due to Latifi's change of chassis on Friday. Nevertheless, the Brit's brilliance that weekend cannot be underestimated, especially at a track where grip levels were extremely low and the gusty winds made conditions incredibly tricky. Also note that the Hungarian Grand Prix has been excluded from this list due to Latifi's floor damage after suffering a puncture due to an unsafe release. So overall, the average gap between Russell and Latifi on race pace was around 0.08 of a second, which I personally would have expected to be a lot bigger given that Russell was in his second season with the team. However, due to his exceptional performances on a Saturday, optimum race pace may not have been a priority of his, and instead, he tried to fight with drivers in better machinery more often than not. The low performance ceiling of the Williams may also have played a part in Russell being limited in terms of putting all his talent and skill to maximum effect. After all, the Williams had a very strange imbalance when it came to qualifying and race pace, meaning any good work done by George on a Saturday would normally be undone on a Sunday. Out of the 16 races in the Williams, Russell dragged his car into Q2 on 9 occasions. His brilliance in qualifying often put him in a prime position to capitalize on point scoring opportunities in races of high attrition, but on a number of occasions, he failed to convert. At the Sakhir Grand Prix, while trying to overtake Kevin Magnussen around the outside of turn 6, he ran wide and went across the gravel trap, dropping to P18. He could have used better judgment in this particular situation to know when to attack and when to be conservative, but on the other hand, you are always going to be more error prone when trying to outperform your machinery. At the Tuscan Grand Prix, a poor restart caused him to drop down to P12 behind Vettel, Raikkonen and Grosjean, and miss out on another points finish. However, after the race, Williams clarified that Russell didn't do anything wrong in this situation, as he executed the race start procedure as they had specified. The difference in this case was that Williams were working with best guess estimates, as race starts on such low fuel had not been practiced up to that point. So again, it's not like Russell necessarily threw away points. The same, however, cannot be said for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where he crashed under the safety car while running in P10. Such a schoolboy error was incredibly frustrating, and it led many to believe that he cannot handle pressure. But just 3 races later, he silenced such criticism when he stepped up to the plate for Mercedes at the Sakhir Grand Prix. Now, I have already covered the entire weekend in a separate video, which you can check out after this one. But just to give you a quick rundown of the key events, Russell qualifies 0.02 of a second behind Bottas to line up P2 on the grid. He then jumps the fin at the start and perfectly controls the race until the man who replaced him at Williams hits the barrier at the final corner on lap 63. Lap 63. Mercedes botched both Valtteri's and George's pit stops, and as a result, the latter has to come back into the pits to fit new tyres due to a mixed tyre set. He maintains composure and fights his way back up to second place, including a sweet overtake on his teammate on lap 70. But then, he suffers a left rear tyre puncture, forcing him to stop again and settle for a P9 finish. It was a heartbreaking end to what had been a fairy tale weekend. Not once, but twice was the race taken away from him. During that weekend, George Russell proved to us that he is without question the star of the future for Mercedes. This one outing in the best car on the grid puts all of his star qualities into the spotlight for everyone to witness. I want to round this video off by analysing some of the intangible assets that Russell built upon last year, such as his leadership, maturity, and confidence. He knows what he wants from the team and the engineers, and as a result, his feedback on the car's performance has helped Williams get better overall. He can be very stark with his feedback at times, as seen in the second installment of Drive to Survive at the British Grand Prix, but it at least helped the team to recognise the importance of the car's issues. His approach remained consistent throughout the course of 2020, regardless of whether he was in the fastest car or the slowest car. Always looking to get the best out of poor machinery is a trait common among very few, and it takes a generational talent to consistently extract the maximum from that machinery. Upon review, it's clear to see that George's 2020 season was an eventful one, but also it could prove to be one of the most important years in his F1 career. How much did George Russell impress you last year? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to enjoy my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.